flying the most precious passenger in our nation, the President of the United States of America. He's known as Frenchie to his friends, his fellow Marines, and several presidents. He was the captain of Marine One, the president's helicopter. Now, he was captain of the president's helicopter for both Bushes, Bill Clinton, and our current President Obama until he retired from the armed forces in 2011. Colonel LaRue has now published a memoir of his time served inside Marine One. 4 U.S. presidents, one proud Marine, and the world's most amazing helicopter. Colonel Ray Frenchie LaRue, welcome to the Bob Rivers Show in Seattle. How are you, sir?
Good morning. How are you? That was a superb introduction, and I don't speak French, so I'll...
You don't even speak French with a name like that? You sound like a French sandwich.
Much to the dismay of my father, in fact.
But they called you Frenchie because of the name, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
And as Marine Corps names go, wasn't that a pretty harmless one?
That was, in fact, all the jet guys get the cool ones like Maverick and the like, and usually the call signs that are bestowed on you is because you've done something, you've screwed something up. So I was happy to just get a derivative of my name.
Now, it didn't involve you being a good kisser, did it, that name?
Well, that would come later, I think.
All right. At some point, you would earn that degree as well. Listen, a lot of times the U.S., what do they call it, Air Force One, the president's jet, the president's big airplane seems to get more press than Marine One, the presidential helicopter. And yet, on TV, I see the president leaving the White House lawn in the helicopter way more than you ever see the president getting on a big Boeing, whatever it is. So it's a 737, isn't it?
747.
747. Oh, yeah, of course. Why would he have a small subcompact? So tell me a little bit. You say this is an amazing helicopter. Is it a one-of-a-kind model, or are there other copters of the same, less gussied up, that have the same model as this, or is this one of a kind?
No, it's actually the Marine One and then Air Force One. A lot of the transportation and the logistics, care and feeding of the president is really done by the military. So you're going to take something that is off the shelf,
right,
for the most part, and missionize it. And in this case, this particular platform is an old SH-3. It's a Navy variant of a maritime helicopter that, at the time, was the right size to missionize it, to have that VIP role of flying the commander-in-chief. And it's the same aircraft that's been flying for quite some time.
That's a wonderful word I've never heard before, by the way, missionize, which means to really make something work perfect for the exact application that it's going to be used for. Right?
You got it, and they did it right with this one.
Right. And now, how do they missionize the seats? I'm sure the presidential seats are much more comfortable than you tough guys would get going into, do an extraction or something, right? What kind of seats are in that helicopter?
Well, yeah, you can imagine it's a VIP platform, so the seats are VIP.
Mm-hmm.
The seats in the cockpit are not. I can guarantee you that.
The same. They're your regulation seat, because you want to fly the same thing no matter which helicopter you get in, right?
Exactly, and it's you want it that way as well. You don't want to get too comfortable up front.
Right. Now, when you're flying the most important leader in the free world, to be chosen for that job, the day you were told you were going to do it the first time, describe how you got the job in your mind and the feeling you had when you were told you're flying the president.
Yeah, it's one of those. You've done the work that you did in your fleet squadron in the Marine Corps, and this is an aspiration that few people have. But it takes a while to get the application process done. Make sure you get the right background. In other words, the security clearance that you really have to attain. Make sure that you've got the background that will allow you to do that. So there's an entire screening process, and then you get the acceptance letter. In the first tour that I had at HMX-1, it was as a squadron pilot, so I just wanted to correct that. And one of the prerequisites to come back as the boss, which I did for President Bush 43 and into Obama's administration.
Right.
One of the prerequisites is you had to have been there as a youngster, so that you don't have to go back and relearn all that corporate knowledge. Quite frankly, you step off and you've got to be ready to go. But
when you mean been there as a youngster, you mean flying the helicopter your whole life? Okay.
Correct.
The
so
same
when
helicopter.
When I got to the squadron the first time, Colonel Ed Langston was the boss, and I was a squadron pilot. So you ended up being in the left seat co-pilot, if you will.
So you'd been left seat for other presidents, like how far back?
Started with Bush 41 and Clinton.
Okay, wow. And by the way, as presidents change, and Republican, Democrat, you're one of the only bipartisan things that I see. Like they don't replace you. Greenspan went through that change, and you. Is it because of your is the respect and for your experience and your skills instead of breaking in a new guy?
Well, we're all service providers, for instance. So it's you roll with whoever's in office, and you remain apolitical, if you will. So even the folks that are the Secret Service, providing that service, they just you just keep providing that no matter who is in the office.
But can you hop out of the helicopter after flying Obama around and go listen to Rush Limbaugh all day, or do you have to stay completely bipartisan? You know what I mean?
You can't insulate yourself from what's happening around you, but you certainly you have a front seat of watching it from a different perspective. But it's a tough job for anybody, I can imagine.
Yeah. I mean, you have to have that air of all business, and you can't have many opinions, can you?
No, absolutely not. And you're there to make sure that you're getting the president safely from point A to point B.
Like, how long would you last if the president got in and you said, Mr. President, there's a couple of things I think you really should do with this country?
I think that's ferreted out pretty quickly before you even get the job.
Yeah. Go ahead, Joe.
Getting safely from point A to point B can be problematic at times. Just this weekend, our president made a surprise trip to Afghanistan. If you're the pilot of Marine One, do you make that trip overseas with him, or do we have people on the ground there that would become the Marine One pilot?
There are precedented flights of doing just that for the commander-in-chief, and it's usually done under the cloak of darkness, if you will. And the public really doesn't get a whiff of it until the president actually returns. So we would do the same sort of thing. I mean, especially it was more kinetic when we did it with President Bush. And there are helicopters on the ground there, and we send our pilots over, and it becomes if the staff decides that that's what's going to happen, if they're going to fly the president around in an aircraft. Sometimes it doesn't happen. And I think on this recent trip with President Obama, I think, and I may be wrong here, but I think they just landed and he either motivated or addressed the troops that were right there at the Air Force Base.
Okay.
There's been other flights where we took them around, and again, you remain extremely secretive about it, and the media really doesn't get a shot at it until after it's happened.
After it's happened,
Colonel,
to be safe.
I know you probably take a vow of classification, if that's the right word. But do you get to hear the conversations inside Marine One, or is it all headphones? I mean, the real question I really want to ask you is, have you ever heard the president get just chewed down by the first lady? Any president, any first lady, just...
That's the first time I've ever been asked that question. I would say I'd probably be more sworn to secrecy for something like that than everything else that I have been.
Let's give you some military secrets instead. That would be easier. Thank you so much, by the way, Colonel Frenchy LaRue. The book is fascinating. My wife grabbed it out of my hands as soon as I brought it home. You're retired now. You live in Hawaii. Young. In the military, they only want you for your best years, right? You're still a very young man, right?
Yeah, I'm still enjoying the beach every day. So.
Oh, you poor thing. But thank you for serving our country so well.
Thank you.
We'll have the book link at bobrivers.com. Inside Marine One. It's 6:50.